The crack of his fist against my daughter's jaw echoed through my backyard like a gunshot on Father's Day afternoon. I watched Lisa's head snap to the side, her body stumbling against the wooden patio table as our family barbecue fell silent in an instant. The red checkered tablecloth shifted, sending paper plates and plastic cups tumbling to the concrete deck. But what froze my blood wasn't just Bradley's violence. It was his brother Nathan sitting across from us in a folding lawn chair with a beer in his hand, who leaned back and said with a cold smile, "Finally, someone had to teach her to shut up." In that moment, as my daughter's hand trembled against her bleeding lip and my wife Michelle gasped in horror beside the smoking grill, I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. I had only one number to dial, a number I hadn't called in 15 years. Bradley had no idea what he'd just set in motion. My name is Trevor Hoffman. I'm 58 years old, and I spent 30 years as an insurance investigator before I retired to what I thought would be peaceful golden years in Denver, Colorado. I thought I'd seen everything in my career: staged accidents, fraudulent claims, elaborate schemes. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for watching my own son-in-law put his hands on my daughter during what should have been a joyful Father's Day gathering. Let me back up. Lisa is my only child. She married Bradley Watson 3 years ago, and I'll admit, I never liked the man. There was something in his eyes that didn't match his smile, something calculating. My wife Michelle told me I was being overprotective, that every father thinks no man is good enough for his daughter. Maybe she was right, but a father's instinct is a powerful thing, and mine had been screaming warnings since the day they met. The Father's Day barbecue had been Michelle's idea. She wanted the whole family together on our back deck: Lisa and Bradley, Bradley's brother Nathan and his wife Jennifer, my sister Rachel, and her husband Glenn. We'd spent the morning grilling burgers and hot dogs on our gas grill, drinking cold beer from the cooler, pretending everything was fine under the Colorado sun. The smell of charcoal and barbecue sauce filled the air. Red, white, and blue bunting hung from the deck railing left over from last month's Memorial Day party. But I'd noticed things: the way Lisa flinched when Bradley raised his hand to grab his wallet from the patio table, the long sleeves she wore despite the 85-degree heat, the way she excused herself to go inside the house 3 times before we even sat down to eat. We were halfway through lunch when it happened. Lisa had made a comment about Bradley's new truck payment being high, something innocent about the monthly cost. I saw his jaw clench. I saw his knuckles go white around his beer bottle. Then he stood up from his plastic chair. "You want to talk about money?" His voice was low, dangerous. "You who haven't worked a real day since we got married?" Lisa looked down at her paper plate of half-eaten potato salad. "Bradley, I didn't mean shut your mouth." He moved toward her chair, his shadow falling across the table. I started to rise from my seat, but Michelle grabbed my arm. "Trevor, don't make a scene." That's when Bradley grabbed Lisa by her hair and yanked her to her feet. She cried out, her hands flying to her head, and then he hit her. Not a slap, a closed fist punch to her face that sent her sprawling into the patio table, knocking over plates and glasses. Ice cubes from overturned drinks scattered across the wooden deck. The backyard exploded in chaos. Rachel screamed from her chair near the grill. Jennifer jumped up, knocking over her folding chair. Michelle's hand flew to her mouth. But Nathan, Bradley's older brother, just sat there in his lawn chair with that sick smile and said those words that would haunt me. Finally, someone had to teach her to shut up. I didn't think, I didn't plan. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd kept in my contacts for 15 years, even though I swore I'd never use it again. Keith Sullivan, former FBI agent, now a private investigator who specialized in cases others wouldn't touch. We'd worked together on a massive fraud case back in 2009, and he'd told me if I ever needed anything at all, to call. The phone rang twice. Keith's gravelly voice answered, "Hoffman, that you? I need you at my house. Now bring whoever you trust." I gave him my address on Maple Street. "What's happening?" I looked at Bradley, who was now standing over Lisa as she cowered against the overturned patio table, blood dripping from her lip onto her white Father's Day blouse. I looked at Nathan, still sitting calmly in his chair, as if nothing unusual had happened, taking another sip of his Coors Light. Domestic violence in progress. "And Keith, I think there's more to this. On my way. Keep everyone there. Don't let anyone leave." I hung up. Bradley was staring at me now, his face red with rage and sweat. "Who did you call, old man?" "Someone who's going to have a very interesting conversation with you," I said quietly, my voice steady despite my hands shaking with fury. I moved to Lisa's side, helping her to her feet next to the overturned table. She was shaking, tears streaming down her face, mixing with the blood from her split lip. "It's okay, honey, it's going to be okay." Bradley laughed, a harsh, ugly sound that cut through the summer air. "You think calling someone is going to change anything? This is between me and my wife. This is my business. Actually, I said, my voice steady despite the fury burning in my chest. The moment you put your hands on her in my house, you made it my business. Nathan finally stood up from his lawn chair. He was bigger than Bradley, broader in the shoulders, wearing an expensive polo shirt that probably cost more than most people's weekly grocery budget. Mr. Hoffman, I think you're overreacting. Bradley and Lisa have their issues. Like any couple, sometimes things get heated. Things get heated. I repeated, looking at this man who just watched his brother punch a woman and called it normal. Is that what you call a grown man punching his wife in the face? I call it none of your concern, Nathan said, his tone shifting from pleasant to threatening. His expensive Omega watch caught the sunlight as he gestured dismissively. And I suggest you put that phone away and let this family handle family business. I looked at him more closely then. The watch that cost more than most people's monthly salary, the custom polo shirt, the way he carried himself with an authority that didn't match his supposed job as a car salesman. Something clicked in my investigator's brain, the same instinct that had served me well for 30 years. How long has this been going on? I asked Lisa quietly, kneeling beside her near the overturned patio furniture. She wouldn't look at me, her fingers touching the growing bruise on her cheek. Dad, please? How long? A year? She whispered. Maybe longer. My heart shattered. A year. My daughter had been living in hell for a year, and I'd been too blind to see it clearly. Too willing to believe her excuses about being clumsy, about walking into doors, about falling downstairs. I'd failed her as a father, and I wasn't going to fail her again. Michelle had moved to Lisa's other side, wrapping an arm around her shoulders and shooting daggers at Bradley with her eyes. Rachel was on her phone near the grill, probably calling 911, though I'd asked Keith to come first for a reason. If this was what I suspected, we needed someone who could see the bigger picture. Glenn stood by the deck railing, his hands clenched into fists, looking like he wanted to take a swing at Bradley himself. Bradley was pacing now on the wooden deck, running his hands through his hair, his expensive sneakers squeaking against the boards. This is ridiculous. Lisa, tell them. Tell them you're fine. Tell them we just had a little argument. Lisa said nothing, just stared at the scattered ice cubes melting in the afternoon sun. Lisa, Bradley's voice rose, echoing off the house walls. Tell them. She doesn't have to tell us anything, I said, standing up to my full height. We saw what we saw. That's when Bradley made his second mistake. He pulled out his phone and made a call, turning away from us as if we couldn't hear every word. Yeah, it's me. We have a problem. The old man's making noise. He paused, listening to whoever was on the other end. I don't care what you're doing. Get here now. He hung up and smiled at me, that same cold smile I'd seen Nathan wear. You want to make this complicated, Mr. Hoffman? Fine, let's make it complicated. I wondered who he'd called, who would drop everything on a Sunday afternoon to come clean up Bradley's mess. The answer to that question would tell me a lot about what kind of operation these two were really running. 20 minutes later, Keith Sullivan arrived. He didn't come alone. He brought 2 associates, both former law enforcement with the kind of alert eyes that missed nothing, and a woman I recognized as a domestic violence advocate he often worked with. They entered through my sliding patio door from inside the house. Badges already out, moving with the quiet efficiency of people who'd done this hundreds of times before. Bradley's face went pale when he saw the badges. Who the hell are you? Keith Sullivan, private investigator. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Hoffman. Keith's eyes swept the backyard deck, taking in everything, the overturned patio furniture, Lisa's swelling face, the defensive positions everyone had taken, the smell of barbecue sauce and spilled beer mixing in the hot air. Anyone want to tell me what happened here? This is a private residence, Nathan said, finally showing some concern. You have no authority here. Actually, I was invited by the homeowner, which gives me every right to be here. Keith turned to Lisa, his voice gentling. Ma'am, are you all right? Do you need medical attention? Lisa looked at me, then at Bradley, who was glaring at her with pure hatred, then back at Keith. I saw the moment she made her decision, the moment she chose truth over fear, safety over silence. He hit me, she said, her voice small but clear in the afternoon air. My husband hit me. Keith nodded, pulling out a small digital recorder. I'm going to need everyone to stay right where they are. I've got officers from Denver PD on their way. He looked directly at Bradley. You put your hands on her? Bradley's jaw clenched. This is between me and my wife. Not anymore. It's not. Keith's voice carried the authority of someone who'd spent decades dealing with men like Bradley. Mr. Hoffman, you witnessed the assault? I did. So did everyone else here. I gestured around the deck where my family stood frozen like actors in a terrible play. Keith turned to Nathan, who was now standing very still by his overturned lawn chair. And you are Bradley's brother, and I'm advising him not to say another word without a lawyer present. Smart, Keith said. But here's the thing. I don't need him to talk. I've got multiple witnesses to assault. That's enough to bring charges. He looked at me with those sharp investigator's eyes. But you said you thought there was more. I nodded, thinking about Nathan's expensive watch, Bradley's new truck, the way they both carried themselves with more confidence than their supposed job should provide. Call it 30 years of investigator's instinct. Something's not right here. The money, the behavior, the way these two are connected. I gestured at Bradley and Nathan. I want to know what they're really into. Keith's eyes sharpened. He'd learned to trust my instincts over the years we'd worked together, and I'd learned to trust his ability to act on them. All right, let's start simple. Bradley Watson, what do you do for a living? I'm in financial consulting. Bradley said tightly, sweat beading on his forehead despite the shade from our patio umbrella. What kind of consulting? Various things, investment advice, insurance claims. Keith and I exchanged a look. Insurance claims, there it was. And you, Nathan? Car sales? Uh-huh. Keith pulled out his phone and made a quiet call, stepping away toward the corner of the deck. I couldn't hear what he said, but I knew he was running background checks, looking into financials, pulling strings he'd cultivated over decades in law enforcement. The police arrived 10 minutes later, their black and white cruisers pulling up in front of my house with red and blue lights flashing but no sirens. They separated us all, taking statements on my deck and in my living room. A female officer sat with Lisa at my kitchen table, documenting her injuries, photographing the bruising that was already blooming across her cheek and jaw like dark storm clouds. Another officer talked to Bradley on the far side of the deck, who had finally shut up on Nathan's advice. Michelle clung to my arm near the grill, which had long since gone cold. Trevor, what's happening? Justice, I said simply. Finally, but I knew this was just the beginning. As I watched Keith work his phone, making calls and coordinating with the officers, I remembered something Bradley had said during that phone call. Get here now. Who had he called? Who was coming? The answer arrived 30 minutes later. A man in an expensive charcoal suit carrying a leather briefcase stepped through my back gate with the look of someone who'd done this too many times before. Even in the heat, his tie was perfectly knotted and his shoes were polished to a mirror shine. I'm Scott Palmer, attorney for Bradley Watson. My client will not be making any further statements. Keith raised an eyebrow from where he stood near the patio table. That was fast, almost like you were on standby. Palmer didn't respond, but I saw the flicker in his eyes. Yeah, this attorney had been waiting for a call. This wasn't his first time cleaning up Bradley's messes, and probably not his last either. The speed of his arrival told me everything I needed to know about how organized this operation really was. The police arrested Bradley on assault charges. They read him his rights, cuffed him with his hands behind his back, and led him through my house to the front door. As he passed Lisa, still sitting at my kitchen table with an ice pack on her face, he hissed, "You're going to regret this." One of the officers immediately added intimidation of a witness to his charges. Nathan started to leave, but Keith blocked his path at the sliding door. I'd stick around if I were you. I've got some questions. Am I being detained? Not yet, but the night's young. After the police cars pulled away from my house with Bradley in the back seat, Keith sat down with me in my study. The room felt cramped with legal books on the shelves and framed certificates on the walls from my insurance investigation days. Michelle was upstairs with Lisa, helping her clean up and pack a bag. There was no way my daughter was going back to that house tonight, or ever, if I had anything to say about it. Talk to me, Trevor, Keith said, settling into the leather chair across from my desk. What's your gut telling you? I leaned back in my chair, thinking through everything I'd observed over the past 3 years. The pieces of a puzzle I'd been trying to ignore were finally starting to fit together. Bradley doesn't work regular hours. He's got expensive tastes, new truck every year, designer clothes, meals at restaurants that cost more than most people's weekly salary. But his supposed consulting job shouldn't cover that lifestyle. Lisa mentioned once that he was helping people with insurance claims. Keith's expression darkened. What kind of help? She didn't know details. He shut her down whenever she asked questions, told her it was too complicated for her to understand. But Keith, I know insurance fraud when I smell it. I've been investigating it for 30 years. And if Bradley's running something, Nathan's in it too. Did you see that watch? That's a $15,000 Omega on a car salesman's salary. Exactly. Keith pulled out his laptop from a black messenger bag. Let me make some calls. I've got a buddy at the insurance fraud division. If these guys are dirty, there'll be whispers in the right circles. While Keith worked his contacts, I went upstairs to check on Lisa. I found her sitting on her childhood bed, holding her old stuffed rabbit, looking about 12 years old instead of 30. The room still had her high school volleyball trophies on the dresser and posters of bands from the early 2000s on the walls. Michelle sat beside her, stroking her hair like she used to do when Lisa was little and had nightmares. "Dad," Lisa said when she saw me in the doorway, "I'm so sorry." I sat down on her other side, the bed creaking under my weight. "Honey, you have nothing to be sorry for. I should have told you. I should have left him the first time her voice broke, the first time my stomach dropped. How many times has this happened? She looked down at her hands, twisting her wedding ring. I stopped counting after 10. Michelle made a sound like a wounded animal. I was furious but kept my voice gentle. Tell me everything, Lisa. From the beginning, and she did. It spilled out of her like poison being drained from a wound. How Bradley had been charming at first, attentive, loving. How the first time he grabbed her arm too hard, he'd cried and apologized and sworn it would never happen again. How it escalated slowly, a shove here, a slap there, cruel words that cut deeper than any physical blow. He said no one would believe me, she whispered, her voice barely audible. He said his family had connections, that if I ever told anyone, he'd make sure I looked like the crazy one. And Nathan, he was always there backing Bradley up, telling me I was too sensitive, that I needed to toughen up. Did Nathan ever hurt you? No. But he watched sometimes. When Bradley would lose his temper, when things got bad, Nathan would be there, not stopping it, just watching, like it was entertainment. It was almost worse than if he'd done it himself. I exchanged a look with Michelle over Lisa's head. This was sicker than I'd thought. There's something else, Lisa said quietly. I didn't understand it, but Bradley and Nathan, they had these meetings late at night in our basement. Men would come over, people I'd never met before. They'd talk for hours. Bradley told me to stay upstairs, to never come down when they were meeting. Did you ever hear what they talked about once? I was on the stairs and I heard them talking about someone's accident, about how the claim went through, about splitting the money, and then someone said something about the next one, about making sure the injuries looked real this time. My blood ran cold. Insurance fraud. I'd been right, but this sounded bigger than simple false claims. This sounded organized, coordinated, dangerous. I went back downstairs to find Keith on his third phone call of the evening. When he hung up, his face was grim. Your instincts were dead on, he said, closing his laptop. The insurance fraud division has had their eye on a ring operating in the Denver area for the past 18 months. Staged accidents, false injury claims, billing for medical treatments that never happened. They've suspected there was an organized group behind it, but they couldn't get anyone to talk. Everyone involved was too scared. Let me guess, Bradley and Nathan Watson are on their radar, right at the top of the list. They've been tracking a pattern of suspicious claims, all linked back to the same medical providers, the same attorneys, the same investigators. And your son-in-law's name keeps popping up as the victim or the coordinator. How much money are we talking about? Conservative estimate. North of $800,000 over the past 18 months. Could be more. I let out a low whistle. So when Bradley hit Lisa tonight, he wasn't just an abusive husband, he was a criminal protecting his operation. And I'd bet money that the reason he's kept Lisa isolated and scared is because he knew if she ever talked, if she ever felt safe enough to share what she'd seen and heard, it could bring the whole thing down. We looked at each other and I saw the same thought in Keith's eyes that was in mine. We had a chance here. A chance to not just get Bradley on assault charges, but to dismantle whatever operation he and Nathan were running. I need to make a call, Keith said. We're going to need the FBI on this. Over the next 3 hours, my house became an unofficial command center. FBI agents arrived, followed by insurance fraud investigators, followed by the district attorney's office. They interviewed Lisa gently at first, then with growing excitement as she recounted every detail she could remember about those basement meetings, about the men who came and went, about the papers she'd seen with claim numbers and dollar amounts written in Bradley's handwriting. They interviewed me about my observations of Bradley's lifestyle that didn't match his supposed income. They interviewed Michelle about the times Lisa had shown up with injuries and obvious lies about how she got them. They even interviewed Rachel, who remembered Bradley making a joke once about knowing how to work the system when you need extra cash. By midnight, they had enough for a warrant, not just for Bradley's arrest on assault charges, but for a full investigation into insurance fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. They raided Bradley and Lisa's house at 2 a.m., seizing computers, files, burner phones, everything. They brought Nathan in for questioning at the same time, dragging him out of his bed in handcuffs. Without Bradley there to intimidate her, Nathan's wife Jennifer started talking. She'd been scared too, she said. Scared of what Nathan and Bradley were involved in, scared of what would happen if she said anything. She'd seen the way Bradley treated Lisa and knew that if she spoke up, Nathan might do the same to her. The next day, the investigation exploded. They found evidence of at least 40 fraudulent insurance claims totaling over $800,000. They found a network of corrupt doctors who signed off on fake injuries. They found attorneys who filed the claims knowing they were false. They found investigators who wrote bogus reports. And at the center of it all were Bradley and Nathan Watson, running the whole operation like a business. But here's what nobody expected to find. What made this case go from big to massive. Bradley and Nathan weren't just defrauding insurance companies. They were also staging actual accidents, recruiting desperate people to deliberately get hurt in car crashes, slip and falls. Workplace incidents paying them a fraction of the claim money while keeping the rest for themselves, and in at least one case, those staged accidents had gone wrong. A man named Carlos Rivera had been permanently disabled when a minor fender bender they'd arranged turned into a serious collision. He'd been told it would be easy money for a simple insurance claim. Instead, he'd lost the use of his legs. When they told me that, I had to sit down in my kitchen chair. My daughter had been married to a man who was essentially running a criminal enterprise that had destroyed someone's life. The thought made me physically ill. The district attorney came to my house personally to talk to Lisa. "Miss Watson," he said, "your testimony is going to be crucial in this case. We need you to be willing to testify about everything you saw and heard about the meetings, about Bradley's behavior, about the control and intimidation he used to keep you silent. Can you do that?" Lisa looked at me across my dining room table. I took her hand. "It's your choice, honey. No one can make you do this." She was quiet for a long moment, staring out the window at the back deck where this had all started just 24 hours earlier. Then she nodded with determination I hadn't seen in her since she was a teenager. "Yes, I'll testify, because if I don't, he'll do this to someone else. He'll hurt someone else, and I can't live with that." The trial took 6 months to prepare. In that time, Lisa moved back in with me and Michelle. She started therapy. She joined a support group for domestic violence survivors. Slowly, painfully, she began to heal. Bradley and Nathan were held without bail, deemed flight risks given the severity of the charges. Their attorney, Scott Palmer, was also arrested after investigators discovered he'd been laundering money through fake legal settlements. The whole organization was being systematically dismantled, with dozens of arrests across Colorado and Wyoming. I watched Lisa grow stronger with each passing day. The scared, broken woman who'd come home that Father's Day had been replaced by someone fierce, someone determined. When she walked into that courthouse on the first day of the trial, she held her head high. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. Financial records, wiretapped phone calls, testimony from the recruited accident victims, medical evidence from the people who'd been hurt. And then Lisa took the stand. She testified for 4 hours over 2 days. She told them everything about the abuse, about the fear, about the basement meetings and the whispered conversations, about Bradley's threats and Nathan's cold observation, about the night on Father's Day when her father had made one phone call that changed everything. Bradley's defense attorney tried to rattle her, suggesting she was making things up, that she was a scorned wife seeking revenge. But Lisa didn't break. She looked that attorney right in the eye and said, "I have the medical records from every time he hit me. I have the photographs my therapist helped me take of bruises I'd hidden for years. I have the testimony of my family who witnessed the violence. The only thing I'm seeking is justice for everyone my husband hurt, including myself." The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours, guilty on all counts. Bradley Watson was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison for insurance fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering, plus an additional 5 years on state charges for assault and domestic violence. Nathan got 8 years. The other members of their organization received sentences ranging from 3 to 10 years. A year after that Father's Day barbecue, Lisa and I sat on my back porch watching the sunset. She'd started a new job as a victim advocate, helping other domestic violence survivors navigate the legal system. She'd found purpose in her pain. "Dad," she said quietly, "I never thanked you properly. For making that call, for believing me, for not giving up." I put my arm around her shoulders. "Honey, I failed you for a year by not seeing what was happening. That phone call was the least I could do." "You didn't fail me," she said firmly. "You saved me when it mattered most. You didn't hesitate. You acted. That one phone call hadn't fixed everything. It hadn't erased the pain or the trauma, but it had been the first step on a long road to justice, and sometimes that's all it takes. One person willing to make the call, one person refusing to look away, one person saying, 'No more, I'm Trevor Hoffman. I'm 58 years old.' And that Father's Day, when I watched my son-in-law hit my daughter and his brother smile, I made a choice. I chose action over silence. I chose my daughter's safety over keeping the peace. I chose justice, and I'd make that same choice again in a heartbeat. Because sometimes the best way to protect your family isn't to keep the peace. It's to be willing to break it when someone crosses the line. That's what fathers do. That's what decent people do. When you see evil, when you see someone hurting someone you love, you don't turn away. You don't make excuses. You act.